Hello Harstem, I'm a 4.5k Zerg who recently lost the game because Blink Stalkers and Immortals are simply unbeatable. Unbeatable. Whittling Roach Ravager. This game starts off with the most brutal smackdown of the glaive build that anyone, anywhere has ever seen. The cheeks of the glaive build have never been clapped so thoroughly. The early game is almost flawless. Almost. But none of that matters because the Protoss just makes Blink Stalker immortal and walks across the map. Sure, I make mistakes here and there, but this tier 2 Protoss comp cannot be beaten without tier 3 from Zerg, which surely means that it is Imba. Sincerely, Kovie. PS, in the highly unlikely event that you find that I suck, can I be declined instead of declinched? Thank you. I think that can be taken care of, Kovie. So, editor, take note. Alright, we're already 1 minute and 35 seconds into the game. We gotta slow it down a bit. Otherwise I won't even be able to get any ads from this. So we have Kovie over here, who apparently has some of the best glaive defense in the world. Now, the title, the person that formerly held this title before Kovie played this game was Dongregu, who invented the defense that is currently most popular against the glaive build. And that is, you play 5 queens, you stop at 39 to 41 workers, you get a lot of links out, and then from a single gas you start building roaches. And you try to get the roaches out by around 4:55, between 4:50 and 5 minutes usually is fine. You get 2 spores, 1 spore in the main, 1 spore in the third base, and you try to get a spine at the third base as well. This is in case the movement from the third, or from this area into the main, then they walk to the third. If they cancel the shade, then you have a spine at the third base. So these are all things we're going to be paying attention here from Kovie. And let's see if he can take the title away from Dongregu. Now, Dongregu is of course one of the top players in Korea right now. A very powerful Zerg player. Made it to the round of 24 in GSL. But Kovie is 4.5k. And according to him, he has some of the best early game in the world. Especially early game defense. Now, he opens up with a Overlord speed, which I honestly don't mind. If your natural isn't getting blocked, you can play Overlord speed. You have the resources for that, and it's possible. A lot of people do this. Players like Lambo, I think Serral does it a fair amount as well. I want to say Raynor, but then I think I'd be lying. I don't think Raynor is a big fan of Overlord speed, but it is not unpopular to play Overlord speed before Link speed. If you don't get your natural blocked and you see Warp Gate before Stargate. So far by Kovie, pretty decent decisions. I can live with all of that. We see the creep is getting pushed out as well. An almost flawless early game is what our friend said. And so far it's looking pretty much like an almost flawless early game. Mr. Kovie is looking tight over here. His opponent looking a little less tight, but let's not focus too much on that. We're going to be looking at some key timings here, right? We're going to be looking at drone count. We're going to be looking at overall map awareness of Kovie as well. Now we see the Roach Warren getting down at a decent time. He has an Overlord out. We don't see any link spread around the main base, making sure that, just making sure that he can track the prism wherever it goes. Now, of course, with Overlord speed, he's going to be able to see exactly what's coming. It's going to go up to 44 workers, which is a little bit on the high side, but I can live with it. I dig it. Now, one of the things that Kovie could do here is to keep 6 links on the other side of the map. The reason for this is the moment you have 6 links over here, you immediately force this stalker to never be able to chase this Overlord. And then this Overlord just has free scouting information, meaning you can see the Dark Shrine timing, always. You can check the gases easily. The moment this stalker walks away from the wall, he either needs to warp in another unit here, or the Overlord, or the... Wait, what the hell happened here? This might be one of the best defenses I've seen in my life, honestly. He didn't even get a single weapon in. We're gonna grant you that. You got a big green fat checkmark, Kovie. You just beat Dongregu. Congratulations. The crown gets transferred. Dongregu, give it over here, my friend. Kovie is the new king in town. Now, after we've given this trophy to Kovie, the question of course is, his early game might be perfect, and Dongregu is shivering just thinking about having an early game like him. Like, oh, don't think shivering is a word, but it is now. It means being very impressed and afraid at the same time. So impressed that you become afraid. Let's see how his mid game is, alright? His early game was perfect. I'll grant him that. Big green check mark for you there, Kovie. I like this linger on buy as well. These are good moves. Kovie is playing one hell of a game here. He's once again fending off these adepts. Now, the one thing I have to admit is that perhaps the drone count is a little bit low. I think the drone count could have been higher already. But I mean, it's not the end of the world, honestly, because Kovie is killing some works on the other side of the map. At this point, once you see that your opponent is going back home and you realize, okay, I'm pretty safe at this point, all you want to do is really get drones, get a fourth base, get your extra gases, and the moment you see a third base, you start your evo chamber. So good fundamentals here by Kovie, who knows all these things. It's actually playing a pretty good game. I'm generally impressed. He is in a good position right now. There's one thing that's worrying me a bit. It's the lack of a fourth base. Could be either here, here, or over here. And it's the fact that he's starting to float a lot of money. 1200 money. 1200 minerals. Jesus, 1200 money. A couple of DTs making their way forward as well, but there's spores in every base, so this should be fine. Queen's tanking a bit too much damage. These roaches should have been split. 6 roaches to the back, 6 roaches pushing forward, trying to keep these adepts away. Is there any DTs? DTs are walking over here. Fourth base goes down. It's really late. 1400 minerals already in the bank here for Kovie, who could have a lot more units already. Must have been missing some inject. What the hell is this oversaturation? Kovie. Oh man. I'm glad I'm not one of Kovie's kids. Holy crap. But Dad, it is a single bed.
No, son, it will be fine. You and your 2 other brothers can definitely sleep in nest.
But Dad, we're very crowded.
Don't worry.
I'm very happy Kovie was not my parent. Still not really spending any money either. So not only is he... Oh man, being a kid of Kovie must suck. Not only do you have to share the single bed with 3 of your brothers, you know your dad is rich, but he just won't buy anything cool. It's like, Dad, the new PSP is out. Like, no, is PSP still a thing? Probably.
No, son, we're keeping the money in the bank.
Aye. And the award for the worst father of the year goes to...
Kovie.
So yeah, he definitely needs to spend that money. He needs to fix that oversaturation. Probably send some of his drones to the fourth base. Not sure where he sent them. Now he's getting a Spire. He's getting a +1 on roach attack. He has really no info whatsoever. Let's not forget that he has overlord speed. Oh, here he comes. As I say it, I like that. So he's gonna see exactly what's happening. He sees double forge. He sees a bunch of gateways go down. And if he's smart, he sees the lack of a 5th gas. Now, the lack of a 5th gas... let me give you a little lesson here, guys. One of the main things, the main triggers that Zerg should have is seeing a lack of gases. In general, if you're scouting, whether you're Protoss or Zerg, gases give you a good clue what is happening. Because if you scout a Protoss and he's only mining off of 4 gas, that means his army is going to be consisting out of a lot of gateway units that don't have a lot of tanking ability. Stalker, Zealot, Adept perhaps. The Archon count can't be that high. It's difficult to get the Storm, especially if you're playing double forge. So you see the gas count for the Protoss here is very low. Now as a Zerg, if you see only 4 gases being mined from, taking 8 gases is usually not good, because that's kind of greedy, right? Taking gas is considered an economical play because you need drones to saturate that. So usually as a Zerg, I'd suggest to never get more than 2 gases more than your opponent has. Does that make sense? So if the Protoss is mining off of 4 gases, which he has this gas but is not mining, in that case Zerg only needs to mine off 6 gases. Now if Protoss is mining off of 6 gases, then Zerg can usually go to 7 or 8 gas. See, that makes sense? That made a lot of sense actually. That made so much sense that the editor did something funny there. We're gonna move forward in this game, and so what I'm trying to say here is that when you're fighting against an army, or when you know that an army is coming your way that consists of mainly non-gas units, what you want is just stuff. You just want to have units on it. It doesn't really matter what. Could be banelings, could be more roaches, could be ravagers, just anything that fights well against a pure gateway army. Now, what you don't want is 2,000 minerals in the bank and 600 gas. That's not what you want. He built 7 ravagers, gets 2 evo chambers. Oh, okay, he's trying to build a wall. Like, this is all a pretty slow reaction. And another thing that Kovie is doing here, I think Kovie at this point realized, he's like, hey, wait a second. This is the replay I'm going to be sending to Harstem. He's going to complain about the amount of money I have. If I just build a lot of structures, he might think that I wasn't macroing too poor. But we don't fall for your tricks, Kovie. It might only say 1,200 in the bank, but there's a building bank as well. And this is another 600 minerals here, my friend. We know your sins. I've watched your sins. Now we're gonna send you to, well, nowhere really. Don't really have any superpowers. So yeah, he basically should have had banelings on the way, more roaches. He hasn't been injecting too well. If you're floating money, once again, there's no shame in just building a macro hatchery. For some reason, people, especially at this level, they find shame in not having macro as good at the pros. But there's no shame in that, really. There's only shame in having an ego. And Kovie's ego prevented him from building that macro hatchery, and instead he's now floating 2k minerals. And there's some shame in that, for sure. So, Kovie doesn't only have the worst parent of the year award, he also has an ego that is usually not that helpful in StarCraft 2. In general in life. Having a very big ego is not great. So, now if we do some calculations here, boys, we have 1,600 minerals. Let me get my calculator out. 1,600 minerals divided by 75. That is about 21 is what my calculator said. So he could have had 21 more roaches. Now, if you do 21 times 2, that is 42. Which means he could have had 42 supply. Now, if this is a 180 supply against 142, all of a sudden this fight will look very different. I mean, even now, this is just a pure stalker immortal army. This doesn't actually do that well. Especially against roaches in big numbers if there's only 3 immortals. He also could have had, honestly, anything. Like just 20 more banelings, a crap ton of lings. Hell, he could have had hydras. Probably even if he would have spent all this money on mutas, it would have been fine. It would have been 15 mutas. I think he would have been able to win, honestly. It's hard to say, but I think with 20 extra mutas, he might just be able to crush this. Because honestly, this army, once lings attack it, is really quite poor. And then the damage dealing units like your roaches or whatever are going to be able to get the real damage. And lings are just tanking the stalkers. But you see, stalkers really suck against lings. Stalkers also suck against drones. This is something people don't realize, but drones are actually a hard counter to stalkers, because they take like infinite shots to die. Instead, my friend Kovie decided it's more worth to have right now 4,000 resources in the bank in an 11-minute game, and I guess he's gonna lose this one. It's fantastic blink micro coming out of Kovie, or out of Ares, and some interesting headbutting into Biles. Yeah, not really quite what you expect there. Let's just move forward, see if Kovie has anything interesting to say at the end of the game. Morphs a couple of banelings, still floating 4k resources. My favorite games are always where they DM, while they're floating more than 3,000 resources. I think there should be a word for people like that. I think Kovie is an appropriate word for people that float more than 3,000 resources. And then send in the replay to the second best StarCraft 2 YouTuber. Okay. Actually calls it a G. Well, Kovie. Let me have another look at your email, because this ain't it, Chief. This ain't it. Simply unbeatable with Ling Roach Ravager. Really? Are Blink Stalkers and Immortals really unbeatable with Ling Roach Ravager? If you have as much supply in Ling Roach Ravager as the other guy has an Immortal Stalker, it's probably gonna be a little bit difficult. The thing is that for a Stalker you're paying 125.50 to supply. Roach 75.25 also to supply. So if you have equal supply, the army value of the Protoss is much higher. Now, you don't value anything that's important in life, like the wealth of your kids, so that might be difficult for you to appreciate. But it's really quite important to think more in army value rather than in supply in these kind of situations. I hope that helps you in the future and in real life as well. And what else did you say? Flawless early game? Yes, you did have a flawless early game. It's the best early game. I'm going to send this replay over to some of my Korean friends. They're playing some of the games in GSL soon, and I think they're going to love this defense. This looked really, really tight, and I can't wait to show them off. Or can't wait to show this off to them. Blah de blah. None of it matter. Protoss just makes Blink Stalkers and Immortal. Yeah, I mean, you did everything wrong. Like your unit, actually not everything. You did a lot of things right, but your unit composition was lacking a bit in Banelings, and you just had a bank that was too big. If you can't realize that quite, then there's no hope for you. And I don't think it's the Blink Stalker Immortal that lost you the game. It is your incompetence, which means you suck and you have been declinched. Alright everyone, that's going to be it for this episode of Is It Imba or Do I Suck? If you did like this, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is over here. This is really difficult because this is mirrored. Then there's Patreon, Twitch, and Twitter over there, and there's more videos in the site. So you can click all of those, and see you all next time. Bye bye.